All right, good morning. We are live. So, how's everybody feeling about crypto today? Let's get
Oh,
some
loving it, loving it.
in the chat. And then I can preempt you with a question, Maurizio. So, literally only a couple of minutes ago, I was just reading the first bit about these two new acts, the Genius Act and the
Yep,
Clarity Act that have gone
yep.
through. And my absolute basic understanding of this is that spot stablecoin ETFs will become available to staking.
Mm-hmm,
And I guess that means that crypto is evolving for more and more
mm-hmm,
ways in which you
mm-hmm.
can generate your income. But I don't know how all the pieces fit together because, like, just really going into all over the place now. Obviously, hypertrend is going to pay in
Mm-hmm.
USDC. And that's like, well,
Yep.
fantastic. I'm going
Hey, Ian, can you hear me? He froze up, didn't he? Can you guys hear me? All right, so you guys still hear me. All right, that's good. That's good. No problem. No problem. Yeah, he probably froze with the COVID. Fair enough, fair enough. I'll keep it going until he comes back. Hopefully he comes back. Hopefully we don't get cut off. If we do get cut off by any means, log back in. All right, like because obviously, um, the host now. So yeah, no, I didn't get cut off. All right, cool, 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 cool. There it
to.
is.
There we go. There we go. Sorry about that slight
That's all right.
technical malfunction. That's because I was talking to you about the coronavirus earlier, and obviously people are listening to our conversations, and they're shutting me down. They're silencing.
Oh man, one of those things. Yeah, we were talking about the stable coins and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I literally just saw that this morning, I haven't read
Hmm.
it I haven't read it through thoroughly. But I like these things that are happening. It's like there was a world record set at the Bitcoin conference in Vegas this year for like the most amount of transactions ever. And you know, you fix the money, you fix the world. And it's like there's so much stuff that is happening with crypto now, that
Yeah, it's good and bad, right? Right, because obviously, there's a lot of stuff happening in terms of, in my eyes, because I did talk about it like last week or probably the week before when the Circle IPO launched.
Mhm.
And I'll show you a chart, and that went ballistic. It started at 30, now it's at 200, right? And the um this is kind of the real markets, the need, or the what they want to get out of the stable coins and things like that, right? Like
Mhm.
from that perspective, stable coin will give you money forever. If that's the case, so it's a lot of institutions actually catching up on that. So that's good. That's good for crypto. The downside is that it opens up a lot of like, we don't know if everything is gonna come back. You know what I mean? Like there's some projects that's still good, some projects that they're not. Obviously, Bitcoin is gonna remain the king. The major cells still around, but are we going to still have the massive amount of influx of capital that we will have the influx amount of capital, but in my view, the more I think about it, is that because we had so many crypto, so many stuff, we don't know we're gonna have that same bull run exponentially thing that we had at the beginning of crypto. So that's where I'm at the moment. You know what I mean? Like trying to figure out how there's going to be some stuff that's going to pump definitely, but the dispersion of coins is massively massive, massive, massive. But in terms of crypto, it is actually a lot of good things happening in the space. So it's a good thing. It's a good stuff. Yeah, good projects. So
And this big beautiful bill of Trump's that you know is going to add 2 trillion to the debt, you know, it's like that's when generally Bitcoin goes berserk once they turn those money printers on. And that big beautiful bill is about turning those money printers on and turning the fucker up to max.
yep.
Yeah, I mean, so you know that's floating around. And I've also here's another one of my fucking half stories. I've read that there's going to be, or they're already talking about ways to release capital from Bitcoin. Because obviously building upon the Bitcoin technology is not easy. And at the moment, it's like hodlers of Bitcoin, there's like fucking trillions just laid there doing nothing.
Mm.
Find a way to release capital from that Bitcoin, right? Then you got people like that Michael Saylor and his whole what's the word that they're using for it now? Treasury model.
Yeah, the treasury
You know,
companies and shit.
that
Yeah.
more and
Yep.
more, you know, and then all of a
Mm.
sudden you can release monies from that treasury model, if you know what I mean, while still
Mm.
having ownership of your Bitcoin. Then there's going to be a lot of ways to raise money and a lot of different financial products
Oh, definitely. It's
that if
gonna get really, yeah, definitely. It's gonna get really excited. So obviously, right now, the downside is what's going on with the geopolitical stuff, right? Obviously, what happened over the weekend, you know, like everything, every market will suffer when we have this kind of news, right? Like, wars or but at the end of the day, it's holding pretty good from my perspective. You know what I mean?
Bitcoin.
Like, yeah, it's holding pretty good. It's not bad. Like, technically, I will go through the charts and everything, but it looks okay. You're right, Todd. Yeah, at the end of the day, geopolitical stuff is gonna calm down, or maybe it's gonna get worse. Who knows? But at some point, it's gonna calm, or at least people will just say, will accept the fact that there's gonna be a conflict and things like that. Same thing with the Ukraine war. That we're still in war, like Ukraine is still in conflict with Russia, right? But then people have accepted that that's happening. Markets moved on, like you know what I mean. Like all that sort of stuff happened. Is the same conflict. It's just obviously the news that always are going to get affected, and the interesting thing is we sort of saw that lose of momentum. So this is a quite interesting uh, time where the market is at, because now I can start seeing a lot of spot buyers, and that's what we want to see in order to actually have a continuation or an upside. So it doesn't look bad though. It doesn't look bad. So yeah, that's kind of where you guys at. Where do you guys what are you guys at with crypto at the moment? What do you guys feel? How do you guys feel?
So just while those answers are coming in, I'll just touch on a couple of things that were in Scott's emails. So I'm not giving out any new information, secret information, and I'm also not saying that this is that and this is that. So if you've read Scott's latest emails, it's talking about doing a hype denominated vault. And he's also talking that today I think they're gonna choose the volatility of the vault as well. So there's quite a few things that are happening that Scott will make announcements of from there. But the thing that I really wanted to remind people of, if you go through the AMAs and everything, okay, let's say that you hold trend, okay, and we've got one vault, and then there's the 20% share, so you're getting paid your USDC from holding your trend. Okay, that's great. That vault, I get paid my trend. Well, then let's say that there's a number two vault with hype. Well, guess what happens? You get paid twice. You get paid from that first vault, and then you get paid from that second vault. And then let's say that Scott says, right, we're going to have a degen vault. Well, that's then 3 volts. And then guess what's going to happen with your trend coin? You're going to get paid from the first vault, the second vault, and the third vault. So however many volts are created, trend holders get paid. And that cumulative effect of getting paid is the reason why I believe that people won't want to sell trend. There was somebody in the trend group asked if Scott was going to limit the amount that people could buy so that they couldn't dump them. So I'd urge you to go back through the AMAs because we're working on price go up tokenomics, and
Mm.
it's going to be so valuable to hold the hype and get paid, sorry, the trend, and get paid from the trend, that you won't want to sell it. So there's a lot of really exciting stuff that that is coming through with that. But obviously, Scott is the source of information. And what I've repeated there is just what's been in Scott's emails the last couple of days. So again, I urge that you read every email that comes through from Scott. So back to where you were. Sorry, that's the corona's got me. Back to where you were, Maurizio. Let's just have a look at some of these comments that have come through from your question. Yeah, crypto is on sale today, Rob. It is on sale.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
the only thing that I wouldn't like, obviously, I will. That it's not a bad like. No, somebody. Yeah, Jeff talk about DCA, and I think that's a great idea. Not trading, because obviously it could get volatile, right? At some point, maybe Iran will get an attack or something that is going to, and then markets start going nuts, and then you get a stop losses and things like that. I think DCA or buying spot on strong stuff is actually a good idea. So that's kind of the plan that I'm having in some of the stuff that I'm seeing. I'll go through the charts and everything, but yeah, I agree with you, man. Yeah, I wouldn't be. Yeah, trading is gonna be really, really choppy unless you do really, really high like scalp stuff. Then, yeah, I wouldn't like not even a day will hold anything for now in terms of holding with stop losses and leverage and things like that. So I wouldn't do anything with leverage unless you do really quick scalps. So yeah.
Nice. So I just saw a notice from Aaron. He's put together the first guide for moving Maincoin Millionaire over to a hardware wallet. So personally, I'm doing everything to the hardware wallet. I'm going to be
Yep.
unstaking my hype, and that's going to be moving that to the hardware wallet. I'm going to move the Maincoin Millionaire to the hardware wallet, FinRev to the hardware wallet, and yada yada yada. So it's all yeah, so it's all on the hardware wallet.
Yeah, make sure you guys get read that guide. Make sure you do the hardware wallets and stuff like that. Make sure you understand how to do them before you actually move your money. So what I will suggest is that if you haven't actually tried a hardware wallet before you move everything, move one or two hypes or whatever. Move a little bit and then you get used to it. Okay. Yeah, you do pay some more fees and things like that. You test unless because things could go wrong. And if you don't use the same like the correct chain or like things like that, maybe your money gonna get lost. So probably always make sure that you do a little bit of a test before you actually move all day or you start doing big transactions. Okay. And even though if you want to do big transactions, I usually split those transactions in two stages or three even. I pay more fees, but then I'm what I mean, like peace of mind. That's something that I always it's not that it's not that problematic anymore. But back in the days in crypto, like a while back, when you start doing transactions, they used to be like a transaction that always takes longer or things like that that never arrive. Obviously, so I actually built a habit or splitting every transaction that I do in three, depends on the size. So if it's over 20K or over 30K, I always split it into three because you never know what it's one of those things. Anyway, all right. Do you guys have any questions in terms of hardware wallets or things like that? Or do you wanna let's go through the market or
Yeah, we'll go through the markets a little bit. We don't want to open
Oh yeah, yeah,
an
yeah, right. You're right, man.
there.
Uh,
So
le-
I'll just address Christina's question. Okay, so the guides that are produced are pretty damn fantastic, and they're not there to conceivably go through every single possible button press. So if I was going to buy a ledger, well, I'd go to the ledger site and I'd find out, is this ledger compatible with the computer that I'm going to buy? That's that's a way to do due diligence. So a Chromebook is just it's a vaporous little nothing, if you know what I mean, that doesn't have any decent power or hard drive to it. So it works on cloud-based apps, and that's pretty important information to understand how the machine works that you're buying. And then you can go and ask if, something like a Ledger, which works on a local app, is actually gonna do, you know what I mean? So, there's due diligence required everywhere. All right,
Correct.
look at these markets.
All right, so let's dive in. So first of all, I just want to see, what, like, have the full spaghetti charts. It's like 200, like pretty much all Binance tokens here. And then essentially, there's only a few outliers that are actually holding. I'm just doing this. From the beginning of the month, which is June. So what's holding, right? What's holding from since June? Let me just move just to, it's a few ones like Kaya. I'm keeping an eye on these ones. And this is kind of the stuff that I want to see. What's strong? Because in dumps like this, when we have news, when we have a lot of people selling, just want to see what still holds, right? What are the tokens that are actually, have relative strength, right? And this is a great way to just visualize what could, potentially have continuation, right? So we have Kea, which is a network. We have GPS, which is I have not. I will have to look into a little bit more about this one. But we have Say, and that's pretty much it. TRX, right? So these are the outliers here, and we have, what's this one? Uni. Oh yeah, Uni. So Uni's in my list. So we obviously got to stop down on Uni on break even. But it's still sort of giving us that from the beginning of June, which is the beginning of the month, is these are the ones that actually have relative strength, relative momentum, right? So if we have a look at Bitcoin, let's start with Bitcoin. Where are you? Right here. And let me just make this bigger. All right. So there we go. Okay, so Bitcoin, obviously, what an interesting dump, call it that way, but it was immediately bought, right? So yesterday in the news day, like this is Saturday and Sunday, so we got all the way down to 98. Okay, funny enough, if you look at this line that we drew like a while back, it's actually holding right above it, right? Is this level going to hold? And one of the things that kind of I can say, will I buy here right now? Will you guys buy now? Question. Would you guys start buying now? Like, would you buy Bitcoin at this price? It reclaim 100. So 100K, is that cheap? Is that expensive? What do you guys think? Will you go full leverage right now? Layer in. Right. Right, right. And yes, so obviously, it feels odd, right? It feels odd. It's not a bad idea to do like a huge leverage trade with stop losses, risking little, because this is kind of, if market decides to actually bounce from here, it could actually bounce at least all the way up to 110. So markets feel odd, right? And then obviously we're still very, very, in my mind, is we're still waiting to see what's going on with Iran and all that sort of stuff. We could get chopped out, right? So that's kind of what I'm on as well. Like I'm holding a little bit. If we look at this from the smaller time perspective, right? Yeah, massive, massive buys around this area here. And if we have a look at Velo data, right, which I was just tracking. Let me just reset this thing. So, right. So what we're seeing is finally we get a little bit of spot buying here. So we were talking about last week that a lot of these movements, right, they were actually perpetual driven, right? Now we have this huge candle here because we had huge liquidations coming back, right? So you have these liquidations here, liquidations, and now we have an open interest, huge open interest here close. This is an interesting candle, by the way. But then what I want to see is I want to see the spot momentum going, like in order to have continuation of longer term trades or things that I want to hold for a longer term. I want to definitely see a little bit more of spot buying, at least on the 4 hours or higher time frames, sustainability of the trend, right? Which at this stage, if I would be scalping, definitely I would be actually buying this, probably already been out on my trade, and then that's, you know, been saying a lot of. Can you, are you guys, can you guys hear me?
Can see you.
Okay, cool. I saw myself a little bit froze up. All right, cool. So that's kind of where I'm at. So with that being said, nothing much. I'm just basically tracking what's having a lot of strength and what are the potentials that I'm going to buy, right? So I drew this box right here around 94, 93 area because that's kind of my next level to go really, really bullish. Like right now, I'm sort of in the middle of a range, right? But then you have this cluster here of huge dailies. This is actually the level that actually broke up to the upside, right? So if we get to this level here, that will be my next, that will be sort of the level of pain, right? Like a lot of people will sort of start capitulating around this area. So if we get here, I'll be looking to add like leverage into it. Depends how the market moves, right? If we don't get here, then the next option is how this level is going to hold up, right? Is this going to create a new range, things like that? So I'll be monitoring these on sort of small time frames, like 6 hours or 4 hours, right? So if we look at the 6 hours, this is just sort of the beginning of people buying. But what I want to see, before I start going full steps in this thing, where are you? Where's my brush? Right here. So what I want to see is a break of structure. So we're still bearish in a way, right? So if we start sort of doing like this, right, then what I like to see is people front running the levels. So check this out. For instance, this deviation right here, right? Market starts going up right here, and then it starts sort of front running these levels here. So I will not grab the bottom, but I might just start trading these levels here, right? Could be a small trades, but that could be the continuation. That's kind of the plan that I have at the moment, unless things change. But I'll be tracking Bitcoin closely just to, let me just delete all this stuff. All right. So that's kind of what I have in terms of Bitcoin, but this level is holding pretty well. But the only downside is that we're still below these levels here. So even though it is holding, right, we're still sort of, we're not closing above these levels, especially above this one, right? So that's not a sign of strength, at least not today. But we could actually get there probably today, tomorrow, who knows? So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. Okay. Marlon, what are the red dots? It's called market order bubbles, and it's it's just kind of tracking of the markets. It's an indicator that is called this one, market order bubbles by Leviathan, and it just give you an insight of the amount of orders going through. Like if it is a lot of big orders, it's just, but it's not that. It's just an idea, right? And he does that by looking at the volume. So the good thing about it is that if you can actually see capitulation, so when you see a lot of when you see a lot of the greens, right? This actually works in smaller time frames, more than likely. But when you start seeing a lot of the greens, and imagine that people are buying, right? But the price doesn't move to the upside, more than likely you're going to start seeing a reversal. Why? Because the way to think about it is, if a lot of orders come in to the upside to buy, you want to get rewarded. You want to start sort of seeing that the price goes in your favor. But if that doesn't happen, more than likely you're gonna have a retracement. People are gonna start like selling or closing their orders, and that's kind of how you can actually read these kind of indicators. But it actually works better on a smaller time frames, right? But this is just an idea of, if you see a lot of reds, like if you see a lot of red dots on the bottom, it means that people are capitulating, closing orders, right? And then usually market sort of bounce. So yeah, that's the idea of this one. You can actually it's free. It's called market order bubbles. I think it's pretty cool. So yeah. Anyway. All right, cool. So let's have a look at Ethereum, because Ethereum is not doing that great. So have a look at this. We do have these red bubbles here. So essentially, that doesn't mean that we're gonna have a reversal. But what that means is that there a lot of people are selling, or you can either selling or capitulating, and usually markets sort of bounce out of this area. So this is a really great example of what I was explaining. You get a lot of orders, like a lot of people buying, right? You get these bubbles kind of orders, and it's not being rewarded. So at some point, these orders are going to get closed if the market is not have continuation to the upside. So it's a really good way to actually look for reversals, or or a lot of liquidity areas. That's how usually I draw my areas as well. When you start seeing a lot of bubbles, that means a lot of orders. Okay, but this is what I mean is this is not very accurate in a way, because it's done by volume, it's not by orders. If you want to really get that indication, you just need to have a look at the order book and figure out the orders and the heat maps and order heat maps and all that sort of stuff. So this is kind of like just a very easy way to see where the volumes are technically, right? So, all right, so let's have a look at Solana. All right, so Solana, yeah. So check this out. So I had this level here, right? And we're bouncing right off this level there. So that could be an indication if Solana is from running, right? But it's from running, we're still sort of in a bearish structure, right? Unless we start seeing like a break to the upside. And I'll be sort of tracking Solana on a 4-hour, like probably on the break of this level here, I will start getting interested into going long and things like that. But it's not a bad risk reward ratio, right? If you want to be really risky on this one, right, you can technically, right, enter on a Solana trade right here, stop loss is very, very easy. Like it's very simple to see. If we go below this, more than likely we're gonna retest lows, right? If this level holds, obviously I wouldn't put it that close here. I'll probably use the ATR, you know, the average true range, and probably make the stop loss a little bit longer. But that's not a bad risk reward ratio if market decides to actually bottom here. Okay, so Solana looks okay, but it's still, you know, it's very early to go nuts on here. Would I still buy Solana on DCA on spot? Yeah, definitely. If you don't have, I think it could be a really good dip to buy. Definitely. So yeah. So let me just change to daily. Let's have a look at daily. All right, let's have a look at daily. There you go. So that's the daily view. So yeah, very interesting markets. Obviously, it could get volatile. We can revisit these lows again, or we can just bounce right here. Which one is going to be? Honestly, don't know. It could get. It looks good, right? This bounce looks pretty good, especially when I see that the strongest stuff actually is doing really well. So what I'm tracking though is this all the stuff that I'm tracking, right? Just to make sure that we still have strength in the market. So this is pretty much the strongest stuff that the strongest thing in the market, hype. So we have hype right here, and this is been my gauge for last week to see how strong the market, how likely the market will have continuation to the upside, right? Because hype is leading the way. That's no question, right? Hype is being like the strongest thing so far. So the interesting thing is hype is now holding really well at these levels here. So even though on Saturday and Sunday, when things actually went out of shape in the world, right? This thing is actually, people are willing to still buy hype at these levels here. That gives me a lot of confidence in terms of that this could be a bottom. Same thing with Filecoin. So Filecoin, it is holding amazingly well. Like, look at these things, man. Like, people are willing to still buy on every single dip. So that's actually a good one. Like, we bought a little bit around 105 or something like that. So I'm actually looking to buy more on this dip, right? Well, like, something to be aware of is if we start losing a lot of strength, then maybe I'll start cut it, but still looks pretty solid, right? So I'm sort of tracking this sort of strength tokens. The other one that I'm tracking is XPX. So over here, SPX, which was pretty strong, right? And this is kind of the first pullback. However, this thing could get really, really volatile. And this is sort of like an altcoin or a meme coin still, but I'm still tracking this one. Sei had a pretty interesting week last week, right? And this is kind of the first pullback from that strength. So I'm tracking this one closely because this could actually start getting, like, on strength, we can actually start breaking up to the upside. So that's actually another one that I'm tracking closely. Obviously Sui, but Sui is losing a lot of momentum. Let me just make this a little bit bigger, right? So Sui was losing a little bit of momentum here. So I don't know if that was gonna hold. I'm gonna start looking on chain to see if Sui has continuity. I think hype is taking a lot of the, you know, the market liquidity and things like that. There's a lot of things happening on the hype, on the EVM and on the ecosystem. There's a lot of things, a lot of new projects launching on the EVM and things. So probably that's why it's taking a lot of liquidity out of these ones. And I'm looking at Kaya. So Kaya has been pretty strong, right, since June. But we're still sort of right here. So this is a quite interesting chart because what you can see here on the daily, let me just, all right. these levels here are very, how do I put this? Like, this is where people either, sell completely, and that's when you see all these freaking coins going to, losing a lot of momentum, losing a lot of a lot of valuation. By the way, this is a brand new token. But then when tokens actually reclaim those levels, there could be a likelihood that these will have continuation to the upside. Okay, so I'm tracking this one, even though we had a good, or that could act as a resistance. People will say, no, this is not going to go there, and then it's just going to come down again. So, I'm tracking this one from that perspective. I don't have any sort of fundamentals on Kaya, right? So just looking at for the price action perspective only. So I'm not, yeah, I wouldn't hold that. I wouldn't hold that for a long time or not. I will have to do a little bit more research in terms of the network and things like that. The other one that I'm watching is Arrow. So Arrow start like same thing. Since Monday, since June, it's been very, very strong. So I'm just technically, putting the ones that actually having momentum. And more than likely, if this is the bottom, right? If Bitcoin puts a bottom, then more than likely these are the ones that are going to keep going. As simple as that, right? So that's about it, guys. That's pretty much all I have in terms of what's holding, what is still have relative strengths, things that may have sustainability, like in the medium longer term. JTO is quite interesting as well, but it didn't hold up quite a lot. And if Solana keeps moving up to the upside, definitely, JTO will more than likely will recover, because JTO was the one that is actually giving us the best returns when Solana was going up. So it is in my list based on that. Besides that, I don't have any other sort of any other tokens that I'm following closely, to be honest. So I'm just focusing on those ones. There could be a lot of opportunities for scalping, but yeah, that's kind of, in terms of medium long term, those are the ones that I'm watching pretty much, right? So Ondo, let's have a look at Ondo. Yeah, Ondo's pretty. Yeah, the reason the Ondo is not on my list is because it doesn't have relative strength, right? You can actually that Ondo since June, like this is June right here, it's been pretty weak. Okay, that doesn't mean that this might not start coming back up, but it doesn't have the relative strength that I'm looking to get all these medium term trades, right? But Ondo fundamentally still is a good play, it's a good token. Obviously, there's not a lot of it hasn't been a lot of stuff on RWA recently, but to be honest, it's not a bad buy. Let's have a look at this. Volatility is pretty low on this one. Like it's sort of like a deviation here from these lows. But it's still, due to the fact that this one hasn't had the strength that I'm looking for, I don't know if this one is gonna bounce high. You know what I mean? That's kind of the only thing that I'm looking for the next trades that I will be taking, right? Like relative strength, and this one is not. But this one is holding pretty well on those levels right there. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm taking here. Okay, BMT looks like does it make sense to have position in Tau before it breaks out to the upside again? Let's have a look at Tau. Yeah, it's in my list. Where's Tau? Tau. Right here. Yeah, I was looking at Tau. So Tau, I will say yes, right? But same thing. So Tau had a relative strength, a little bit of relative strength last week, but it hasn't been able to actually break above these levels, right? But this is kind of the first deviation of tau, right? So you have these lows here, okay? You have these lows where, right? So now this could play out two ways, right? We'll have a deviation right here. Market, come on. There you go. Okay. Something like this, right? So we reclaim this level here, and then we start sort of going up, or we reject at this level and we start breaking down to the next level, which is going to be this one, okay? So if you want to start buying, right, at these levels right now, you have to be mindful that we might revisit this level at some point if we still have weakness, okay? But if we start printing the bottom here, right, then what I will do is probably I will wait until this actually gets reclaimed, and then, you know, more than likely we're gonna have continuation, especially that Tau has it's been pretty strong since April, technically, right? April was the bottom of Tau, so that's what I will wait. But if you really like the project, I'll definitely buy it, right? Like DCA and into it, it's not like more than likely, Tau is a pretty, yeah, like it's fundamentally strong, right? So yeah, yeah, Miles, hopefully that's actually that's something that I'm looking at. I'll do a little bit more research in terms of you know, on-chain transactions on Tau and all that sort of stuff, but it doesn't look bad though. People looks at it like he looks like he's capitulating here. Yeah. Let me add it here to the upside here. Yeah. So it doesn't look bad though. All right. What else? Aave. Let's no. BMT. Look at it had an airdrop. Will be a good buy. The market starts to recover. Toot looks. Yeah, I had it here. I had BMT and Toot. Man, I'm still. Yeah, I'm still. These ones could be really interesting. I don't have I don't have a thesis. I don't have anything. Look at this. Look at Toot, for instance. Look at the price action. It doesn't tell me anything, man. So that's kind of where I'm at. But with that being said, it doesn't look like it still looks pretty upside. It looks pretty good. Like it hasn't been able to actually break down, right? But it's not enough history in my mind to actually let me have a look to, and then in a different one. Let's see if Gate.io has, yeah, same thing. So yeah, it is in the list because it has relative strength, of course, but yeah, price action is not that telling for me, at least. You know what I mean? Like fundamentally, don't know much about the project or anything like that, but price action looks weird, man. Like, you know, looks weird. And BMT, let's have a look at BMT. So BMT looks a little bit better. This is the listing price, by the way. So obviously we approach into listing price right here. So that's going to be significant. So if we're able to break listing price, more than likely we'll revisit these levels here. So I'll keep an eye on this one. But we're very close to this, especially on these new projects. And if market doesn't recover, these projects don't recover. You know what I mean? They don't tend, or at least they, you know, market makers just try to actually pump it, and then a lot of people sell, take that liquidity to get out. So that's what I'm tracking. The one that I'm interested as well, we were talking about it with Ian about you know, these projects that are coming out that they're gonna take, you know, people, you could stake Bitcoin and have liquidity and you can trade with that stuff. And it's this project called Solvi. It looks pretty interesting. It looks pretty interesting. Price action looks pretty shit. Project could go to zero, but the fact is been very, like, I've been tracking this for a while, and it hasn't been able to break down. So it's market makers, so somebody is actually holding this quite effectively, right? So you can actually see the price action of this thing It's very weird. It's very low liquidity, but yeah, I'm tracking this one. You can start seeing there is a lot of people buying this thing here. So there is a high likelihood that if we do get a break, we might get a really gap fill, like all the way up here at least, right? So that's 62% here. But this one is pretty risky. Project looks good, but it's still something that I haven't been able to research fully. I just want to highlight this one here, for high risk stuff. Aave, somebody says Aave. Okay, Aave, yeah, Aave looks pretty good. We are back in this liquidity zone. Same deal, man. Like all charts are pretty much the same. Aave is still strong, right? Aave, when market comes back, definitely. If this is the bottom, Aave, I will be buying more Aave. Yeah, as simple as that, right? So, yeah, we just hit the 200 EMA. We're back on this liquidity area. So it looks good, man. Like, yeah, it's one of those things that obviously someone told me, you get greedy when everybody's scared, and you get, you start selling when everybody's happy, and that's the way to see the markets. Obviously, is this the time now? You know what I mean? I think, I'm not a geopolitical. Yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen with Iran and stuff like that. But then probably, we're going to get volatility. So that's why anything that I will do is I'll do in the spot, more than likely. Okay, so I think that's it, guys. Todd, yeah, I still like A16 set. That's why he's still here. Is the time to buy yet? Probably. You know what I mean? Probably. Because yeah, I still like the project. On the downside of A16 set, it has lost a lot of momentum. All right, like the infrastructure and things like that, you don't see a lot of projects going on or a lot of agents being deployed. So that's the only downside, but I still like it, man. I still like it. Probably this is going to zero, but this could be, a really good place to buy if we still get, if Bitcoin decides to bottom here. Let's have a look, because it's now. Let's have a look at Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is now sort of giving us a really good bounce, especially on small time frames. So yeah, if market decides to actually bottom around here, yeah, those ones could be really good buys. Those riskier stuff could be really good buys, but don't put much money on that. Like, those risk stuff could actually be high risk, high reward sort of deal. Okay. ARP. Oh, ARP is, let's have a look at ARP, because ARP is part of the Ethereum betas, and Ethereum, that depends on Ethereum, man. So ARB, ARB is a good project. The problem with these sort of Ethereum betas is that there's a lot of chains doing the same thing over and over and over again. So there's a lot of distribution. So even though the price it could be a good buy, probably we might bounce, but then I don't know if ARP and OP and all this stuff, which pretty much do the same thing, they're going to get all new highs. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, this is not a bad idea to buy, but then probably start getting some profits or things like that in terms of, but this is so Ethereum dependent, and Ethereum is not looking that great, man. Like, yeah, Ethereum he had his chance to actually break above the 2800, couldn't. Let's see what happens at this level. Let's see if this is another way, because this happened so abruptly that a lot of people might be on the sidelines. They could see this as an opportunity to buy. So that could be the liquidity you need to actually break to the upside. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of but I will wait until at least reclaims this level, and then yeah, I'll wait a little bit longer, unfortunately. I will not get the bottom more than likely, but I'll be a little bit more confident in the trades. Or no, you cannot ever be confident with the trades anyway, but at least it will give me a little bit more indication that this could actually bounce right here. So yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. Let's have a look at INA. Yeah, we got out of INA. Well, a little bit of a loss, but INA looks like this is the lowest thing that since September 2024, right? So I wouldn't mind INA, to be honest. Like INA, fundamentally speaking, still like it. Especially with what's going on with the stable coin. Where's my rectangle? It's just been painful, man. INA has been really freaking painful. So this is the level that INA is actually targeting. So it cleared these lows right here. So in order for me go with leverage again, right, I will need that the market recovers. You know, I start seeing a lot of momentum again on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and things like that, and then that will be a really, really good trade for this one. You know, but INA looks pretty good, pretty good. But then the problem is, start buying now, especially if you're gonna buy on leverage, right? Then it could get choppy, right? Could get really choppy. I wouldn't mind adding more into my spot backs on INA, to be honest, at this level. Fundamentally speaking, still looks pretty good. So especially with, yeah, like I say, with the stable coins things, and they're gonna launch I think by memory, I think INA is going to launch their chain soon. So that could attract some attention, and at least we'll get to these levels. More than likely, we're gonna get mean reversion to this level. So yeah. Yeah, Todd. I know. It's one of those things. It's one of the things. Yeah, Robert, that would be a really great idea. Yeah, that I'm still have in a back. I would have, yeah, done the hype thing. Like that would be that was a really great idea. Selling your INA for hype. So that's it. Can INA recover, Todd? I think it might. It recovered to what price? Depends, right? So all-time high was 1.3. I will say that a really good target for INA at least will be 60 cents, you know, and then from then on, if we have continuity of markets, we have continuity on stable coins, we have continuity on Ethereum, Bitcoin, definitely this could recover. But that depends on the whole sentiment of the market. That depends. And that's the thing with crypto, right? Like everything is so correlated or codependent to how Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, well, not, yeah, on Solana, they do, right? So, but the good thing about INA is that when things happen, it could happen quite fast. So, yeah.
That's amazing, Maurizio. That's a really good call today.
Yeah, unfortunately, kind of, yeah, keep tracking the relative strength, and then we'll see. We get some good trades. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm not. Yeah, just watching the market. Just be very cautious with leverage. Pretty much. That's kind of what I'm at. Yeah.
All right, awesome. See you in the group, everyone. Thanks, Maurizio. Ta-da.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Bye bye.